Today, we're undertaking a highly focused, absolutely critical review of the safety protocols that govern, well, literally everything we do. We're looking at a detailed safety overview derived straight from our principal mining hazard management plan and our specific job safety analysis documents. As contractors for Collie Steel working out at the Worsley Alumina Refinery, our environment is fast-paced, it's highly complex, and honestly, it's entirely unforgiving of error. So today we're breaking down our core work protocols to make absolutely sure every single person on our team understands the exact structures designed to keep us safe. So what is this single greatest risk on this site? Think about it. It's actually not the heavy materials we lift or even the massive scale of the refinery itself. The definitive, most critical hazard we face every single day is the interaction between our heavy machinery and pedestrians on the ground. When you've got excavators, front lift compactors, and forklifts all sharing these incredibly tight spaces with workers on foot, that creates a crossover that can turn fatal in a fraction of a second. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll be looking at the mobile plant hazard, site-wide universal controls, scrapyard excavator safety, forklift and lifting rolls, trucks and height restrictions, and we'll wrap it all up with fatigue and final checks. Section 1, the mobile plant hazard, defining the threat. Let's get right into the brutal reality of our operating environment. Straight from the official site regulations, this is our principal mining hazard, or PMH. It's officially defined as the interaction of vehicles and mobile plant with people, other plant, fixed infrastructure, and the working environment. We are constantly operating in shared, congested areas, so whether you're just driving a sweeper truck or walking to a barricaded work zone, this PMH is present continuously across Collie Steel's entire scope of work. To truly wrap our heads around this hazard, our documents break it down into 7 material unwanted events, or MUEs. We're talking about being struck by moving plant, getting crushed against fixed objects, rollovers, being struck by dropped loads, colliding with trains or other vehicles, or striking overhead infrastructure. Now, these aren't just some abstract bullet points on a page. These are 7 specific, catastrophic, life or death scenarios that our entire safety system is engineered to prevent. And this brilliantly illustrates a fundamental truth about the work we do. Look at the inherent risk. That's the danger level before we apply any safety measures whatsoever. It is undeniably high. But look at the residual risk, the risk level after every single one of our controls is perfectly applied. And because that risk is never zero, our differences have to be active, monitored, and respected at every single moment of the shift. Section 2, Site-Wide Universal Controls, the first line of defense. Let's shift gears and look at the universal rules that apply to every single one of us. Keep this number in your head at all times today, 5. This represents the absolute 5-meter pedestrian exclusion zone. Pedestrians always have the right of way. If a pedestrian is within 5 meters of your travel path, you bring your mobile plant to a complete dead stop. You do not proceed until you make direct eye contact with them and they are safely out of the way. Now sure, in some super tight, slow-moving operations like sweeping, this might condense down to 3 meters, but the core principle is absolutely set in stone. Machinery stops for people. Our next universal control is the pre-start and lockout-tagout protocol. Please do not view this as just morning bureaucracy. This is the critical physical barrier between you, the operator, and a potentially fatal mechanical failure. Step 1, you complete the documented checklist. Step 2, you test your attachment, whether that's a grab or a compactor blade with absolutely no load. Step 3, if you find any safety-critical defect at all, you apply LODO immediately. And finally, you literally do not touch that machine again until an authorized person has repaired and cleared it. Section 3, Scrapyard Excavator Safety, High Stakes Sorting and Cutting. Time to dive deep into the specific hazards out in the scrapyard. If you're in the scrapyard, this is your new magic number, 40 meters. This is the strict, mandatory exclusion zone required from the cut point anytime hydraulic shear cutting operations are underway. Why so far? Because cutting scrap steel under extreme hydraulic pressure introduces a massive risk of high-velocity ejected metal and swarf. It can literally shoot out like shrapnel from a blast. Even if you're inside a protected cab with laminated glazing, the danger is extreme, and everyone on the ground must remain strictly outside that 40-meter radius. Section 4, Forklift and Lifting Rules, Refinery-Wide Logistics. Let's talk about those counterbalance and rotator forklifts out there. All right, here are your core forklift defenses. First and foremost, a current high-risk work Class LF license is absolutely mandatory. Let me be 100% clear on this.
Unlicensed operation is strictly forbidden on this site, even if you're just quote-unquote learning under supervision. No way. Beyond that, your amber beacon must be active at all times, travel must always happen with forks lowered, a 10-meter exclusion zone is required when you're loading trucks, and a spotter is absolutely mandatory anytime your vision is restricted.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the physics of bin rotation. See, when you're using a rotator attachment, you are radically altering the machine's center of gravity. Because of this, safe rotation can only occur on firm, level ground while the machine is completely stationary. The massive danger of a tip-over happens when operators try to rotate on slopes, on soft ground, or while they're traveling with an elevated load. Firm, level ground is completely non-negotiable here. Section 5. Trucks and height restrictions. Navigating tight clearances. Let's look at the massive risks posed by overhead infrastructure. So the absolutely crucial point here is our interaction with the site rail network. Guys, this is quite literally a life or death scenario. Every single rail crossing requires a mandatory stop. Trains approach silently in a noisy refinery, and they move way faster than you'd expect. You have to cross perpendicular to the tracks, strictly one vehicle at a time, with all attachments, forks, and bins fully lowered to the travel position. You never just assume the track is clear. You stop, and you visually verify. Our trucks also deal heavily with overhead infrastructure, right? Pipe racks, cables, awnings. If a bin is in a height-restricted area, you must follow this exact 4-step relocation sequence. First, visually assess the clearance. Second, engage the bin and lift it only a few inches off the ground, just a minimum partial lift. Third, carefully drive the truck fully clear of the restricted area. And then, only then, in step 4, can you safely complete the full lift and emptying sequence. You never, ever fully raise a front lift bin while under restricted overhead infrastructure. Section 6. Fatigue and final checks, the human element. Because ultimately, this all comes down to us. Let's move to and see how this builds into our Trigger Action Response Plan, or TARP. This dynamically scales our response when conditions start deteriorating. Level 1 is normal. You proceed but keep monitoring. But say visibility drops because of dust or an area suddenly gets super congested, well, that triggers Level 2. We actively reduce speed, deploy spotters, and alert supervisors. Now, if a critical control fails, like your reverse alarm breaks or the ground becomes unstable, that triggers Level 3. We immediately stop the task, apply LOTO, and escalate the issue. We never, ever push through a Level 3 condition. Which brings us to a question that demands your personal accountability before you even step onto the Worsley Illumina site today. Are you fit for work, and is your machine actually ready? Listen, fatigue degrades your reaction time and ruins your judgment. If you are tired, unwell, or impaired in any way, you self-report immediately. Take these procedures, respect the exclusion zones, do your proper pre-starts, and let's make sure everyone gets home safely. Remember, the controls only work if the person behind the controls is alert. So ask yourself, are you truly prepared to be the last line of defense today?